again. Welcome to another piece of my mind. And today I wanted to talk about illustrating, but for people who are not illustrators, people who are not trained artists, people like me. I've had a little bit of art training. I remember I took a drawing class in high school, and then I took a watercolor class in high school. And actually, I learned a lot, even though I wouldn't say that I became proficient at watercolor in high school. But I learned some things, and that helped me. And then I took a couple of drawing classes in college, and the first one was very good. And they used a book that was called Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain, which is an excellent book. It has a lot of interesting exercises that you can do, and I highly recommend that. If you just want to train yourself, try that book. And it was really helpful in our class. And then the second drawing class was led by a graduate student who was working on her senior project. And she was doing self-portraits. And a lot of them were nude self-portraits. And so she showed us these slides of her projects, and it was kind of awkward to see nude pictures of the person who's standing in front of you talking, although they were very abstract. And so, we know she doesn't look like that abstract picture, but still awkward. And so in the class, we had two levels of drawing. She had the beginning class, which I had already taken, and then she had some students who were in the second class with me. And those of us in the second level class, she asked us to spend all of our semester doing, sorry, I just came in from outside and I'm all sweaty, doing self-portraits, because that's what she was focusing on. And she didn't just want self-portraits, she wanted abstract self-portraits. Well, I was just learning how to draw, so I didn't quite know how to make it abstract, and neither did anybody else. So I would try, like week after week, I would try to be more abstract. And I think my last one was actually closer to what she imagined, but still not as abstract as she would like it. But when I get home, I'll see if I can dig up those pictures and show you. I still have them. They're kind of funny. Anyway, so I have had some schooling, but I'm not really, a super trained artist. Or, and I don't actually spend hours and hours and hours drawing. So just do the best I can. So, but today I want to talk a little bit about how I do illustrations, or mostly I do things for like cards or for like church, for classes that I teach. So right now I'm working on a game that we were supposed to do for this coming week. And so here's my little game. And I used watercolor, and I'm not finished with it either. I need to outline it. But I used watercolor first, and then used some permanent markers to do the writing and draw these. And so it's still a work in progress. But I also want to talk first about materials. And so I like to use watercolor paper. This is a sketchbook, but this feels like watercolor paper to me. The difference between watercolor paper and, let's see, I've got a page of copy paper here, is the weight partially. Okay, so here is regular copy paper. And copy paper is very soft to the touch. It's very compact, sort of, I want to say weave. I don't think that's the right word because they don't weave paper, but it's very compact and very smooth. And watercolor paper, or the sketchbook paper, is a thicker paper that's more porous. And like when you touch it, it's not as soft, it's not as silky as copy paper. And it actually helps the watercolor to absorb in better. And it just works better for watercolor projects. And so that's number one, to have the right kind of paper. I mean, you can do things on copy paper, but it's just not going to turn out as good. And it won't, I don't know, it just won't have the same look to the paint. Then the next thing is the paints you use. Now, I bought these here in China, and these are my very favorite kind of watercolors. And I think you can sometimes get these in the US, but you have to really look. So here's what I look for when I am looking for watercolor paints. Usually if you get like the Crayola brand, when you look at the paint itself, it looks shiny. And this paint is not shiny. This is more of a chalky paint. And this is what I prefer. I feel like it's a better quality paint, better quality pigment. It's just better all the way around. What you have to remember, though, is that this kind of well, I guess, oops, I just spilled water all over my thing. Anyway, any kind of watercolor usually lightens up as it dries. And so let's see if I can give you an example. This turquoise right here, which looks quite dark here, is this color right here. So you can see, if I put them next to each other, how much it lightened up as it dried. So these came out more of a pastel. If I wanted these a little bit darker, I could have added maybe some black to it, and that might have changed the pigment a little bit. Or if you want it more of a pastel, I could have added some of the white. You might say, why would you want white paint when you're painting on white paper? Well, it's for mixing colors mainly. Or if you're using a, I don't know that it would show up on a dark paper because it would get mostly absorbed in. But anyway, it's mostly for mixing paint. And so I like to use watercolors when doing any kind of illustration like this, or any kind of picture that I'm going to show to the class, because it's faster for one thing. I think it looks better too. Like if I did this in crayon, you know how crayon you can see the line marks? With watercolor, it just looks smoother and it fills in faster. It's way faster than doing crayons. And so that's my number one preferred tool. I can't think of the word the word I was looking for. Okay, so that's number one about paint. Now the other thing is about brushes. This brush that came with the paints, it's okay. It's not the best brush I ever used. As a matter of fact, it's a little bit cheap, and so hairs keep falling out of it. But it's doing the job for me. I also bought a calligraphy brush, partly because I bought myself a calligraphy mat, excuse me, Chinese calligraphy mat, that you used only water on it, and then you can reuse it again and again and again to practice writing Chinese characters. And it actually has the Chinese characters printed on the mat. Let me get it for you. I'll show you. Okay, so here is one of the mats that I got. And you can see it has the different strokes, Chinese character strokes. And so that's something I'm going to practice with. And I also bought this one, which has whole characters. And some of these are basic characters, but it's really a good training tool. So I'm going to work on those. Oh, and while I'm at it, I couldn't resist. I bought this too. How much was this? I don't see the price on it, but it was cheap. And this is one of those black papers that you scratch off the black, and underneath is color, so you can do whatever design you like. You can get these at the dollar store in the US, and this wasn't very expensive. So I'm excited to just play with it. Anyway, so with the Chinese brush, you hold it like this, and you go down more if you want the stroke thicker, and pull up if you want it thinner. But it's a straight, you move your whole, you don't go like this. You keep your arm straight and do your whole thing, your whole character like that. And so one thing I wanted to tell you is that when I was in college, I also took a Chinese calligraphy class. And one of the things that the teacher taught us well, I can't get this one to soak up the water very well, is that after you finish using it, wow, this is, okay, just trying to get it to soak up the water. It's not doing a very good job. After you finish using a brush, you should run it under the water, and when the paint is gone, I mean, you have to kind of sometimes brush it a little bit to make sure you're getting all the paint off. Once all the paint is out of it, then you use a paper towel and you shape the brush. You want to keep that really nice point. And so when you store a brush, you don't want it to be stored all flayed out. You want this nice point. And so that's what you're working on. As you're cleaning your brush, after you finish, then you're going to shape the brush by running it along a towel like this. And then you always have a really nice brush. And I thought I would try this maybe with some of the watercolors too, but I just haven't had a chance to do that yet. Okay, so we talked about paper, we talked about paints. The next thing is that I like to do mixed media, which means not just paints, but other materials as well. So for example, I mentioned permanent markers. Now the reason you use a permanent marker is because you don't want something water soluble. If you had a water soluble, then if your paint wasn't dry, it would bleed. And so it's better to use permanent markers. And then the other thing that's really good with watercolor is to use colored pencils. And colored pencils are nice because you could shade in things if you wanted, if you want to give a little texture to your picture. It's not as easy on paint to use, but you can use that. And I always like to begin my drawing by using a pencil and sketching out what I want. And then I watercolor in, and you can be kind of a little bit, you don't have to be super careful when you watercolor in that pencil drawing, because, I mean, do the best you can, but if it's a little bit messy, once you go back in with the permanent markers and put in the details, it kind of hides any of the little mistakes that you might make. And so that's kind of fun to do. And so let's see, I'm not sure if I can get my camera to show the work in progress as I'm doing it. So I'm going to try, and I'll see if I can show you how we do this. Okay, so I'm going to try to do this. I don't know if it's going to show. And I'm just going to play for a minute just to kind of give an idea how to do this. First of all, one thing I want to mention is that when I was in my watercolor class in high school, one of the things the teacher taught me is that if you want flesh color, then mix it with pink with orange, and that makes a really good flesh color. This one probably, I don't know if that's showing up on camera, looks a little orangey. Maybe I can add a little more pink to it. And also it might look a little dark, but remember that as it dries, it's going to get a little bit lighter. Okay, I just thought I'd show that. So that's a secret for making flesh color. And I'm just gonna play for a minute. I see these kind of art all the time that looks interesting to me, where they have like a ring of flowers and then a saying in the middle. So I thought I would just kind of play for a minute and see if I could make something like that. And I'm not being super careful because, like I said, you can add a lot of detail with the markers later. If you use just a little bit of paint or really thin it out, of course you're going to have a thin area. But if you go back over part of that with dark, then it kind of gives some depth and gives some texture to it. Okay, so I think I'll do that one there. Maybe I'll do another color over here. And I don't even know what a flower, looks like, but I'm sure I can make a flower out of this. I'm just kind of just playing. I'm not really trying to be really, really careful with what I do. Okay, let's see. Maybe I'll try this pink. Did I already do this pink? Oh no, I used that to make the flesh color. And I'll just sort of, I'll lean this up a little bit so you can see. I need to get a better camera to use. Okay, now the next thing I want to do, I'm trying to remember how these things look when they have these sort of rings of flowers on Pinterest. I always see these kind of illustrations with rings of flowers. Okay, so I don't even have a circle drawn. I'm just playing, and if it doesn't turn out good, I'll start over. Okay, so, and also I can't use permanent marker for the vines and things. Let's see. But I kind of want a big leaf. So I'll just kind of throw in some leaves. I'm just eyeballing it. I think this guy needs a different kind of leaf. And I'm kind of put like a stem, or no, what do you call that? Bud on that. Okay. Maybe I'll add a little bit of depth to some of these flowers. I'm going to try a different color in this one. I think that looks good. Just added a little bit of kind of shading. Oh, one thing I want to mention too is that one thing I learned is that you can, one technique is to take the, you can tell I have a hard time walking and chewing gum at the same time. You take a wet brush with a lot of water on it and wet your entire paper or a section of it. I felt like I needed one more flower there. And then, get it all wet and then go in with your color. And because the paper will already be wet, when you put in a little bit of shade of color, it'll kind of blend. Like if you wanted to make clouds, for example, wet the whole cloud section and then use your blue and just stripe in some light stripes of blue, and it kind of will bleed into the wet paper and it'll look really natural, like a real sky might look. Okay, so far I have this. You saw I'm just playing. I mean, I'm not trying to be perfect. I'm not trying to make a specific type of flower. I'm just kind of throwing in some shapes. And then I'm going to go back in and have some details. Okay. Now I'll need to let this dry. And then I think I'll go in and put some little vines in. And then I can write some kind of message in the center. But see, that took me, how long was I sitting here? Like 2 minutes? It's really not that difficult. And it's not perfect. I mean, I've got some little empty spaces and it's not a perfect circle. This is actually how I was viewing it. But, if you were making a card to give a friend, this would be really good, and write happy birthday in there or whatever saying, you light up my world, or whatever your saying might be. Anyway, so it's just really simple. Watercolors really are versatile, and you can do so much with them. And so now I'll go in, I'll add as soon as this dries, I'll go in and add with some permanent markers, some veins in the leaf, some vines. I don't know that I'll do too much to the flowers, maybe a few lines here and there, I don't know. And then I'll try to figure out what I'm going to put in the center. But that's how easy it is. I mean, you're going to say, yeah, sure, you make it look easy. Well, it is easy. I mean, I did have a little bit of shape to my flowers. I mean, kind of like what you might do in elementary school, but I think it actually looks fine. Anyway, so that's, I just want to start with that. And maybe later I can show you how I might do a more advanced project where I actually draw the picture. Okay, so I thought maybe I would just finish this up and just show you how I do this. I'm just playing, so I'm not really sure how I'm going to do it. I'm just trying to make it look kind of flower-like. I don't know if I like that, but maybe a few more spots looks better. Yeah, this one, I kind of want it to have a cabbage look. By that I mean maybe I should use a different color on that one. This one, I kind of want it to have a lily kind of look. I don't want too much on these. I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm just playing. And let's see, do I have purple? I have a lot of different colors of, I do. A lot of different colors of permanent markers because I make paper beads with them. I want this one to have a kind of a cabbagey look too. I don't know. Am I done? And let's see, the green out. This is the part that's hardest for me, is trying to figure out what to do about the vines. And I'm doing, trying to make this look like almost like a rosebud. Okay, how am I going to do this? I'm just thinking it would be kind of curly. Maybe sweet pea kind of look. Whoops, I didn't break it. Okay, I think that's okay. I haven't decided yet what I would put in the middle. But I think that would look nice on a card to give to somebody. Write something in the center. I'll think about it. I haven't decided yet. But anyway, that's my finished product. Whoops, where is my stop button? Okay, so I think I'm going to leave that here for now. I don't want to make too long of a video. I mean, it's long enough as it is. But I just want to give you a little start and, just play, just have fun. And a lot of it comes from experience, too. I mean, you can't expect to be a musician without practicing your instrument. And you can't expect to be a good artist without practicing. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm practicing, trying to learn more and more and more. And so I think, and I do see improvements in my art through the years. It's taken a long time. But I really do believe in, just enjoying the process. Part of the book, Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain, talks about how you have to be in a relaxed mood and, you have to, because the right brain side of your brain is the creative side, and so you have to be in the right kind of frame of mind to create art. And if you're, and some people dismiss the right brain left brain theory, but I think there's something to it. And if you're totally focused on mechanics, the mechanics of how do I draw a horse, then you're missing out on the flow and the artisticness of it. There are formulaic ways of painting. This is how we draw a bush, or this is how you should always draw a whatever. And that's one thing that used to bother me about some of the cartooning that I saw. It was very formulaic instead of actually a creative. And I don't mean to say this about all cartoonists, but I'm just saying a lot of the cartooning books that I read as a youngster, it was all a formula of how you should draw a head and a face. And it kind of misses out on the artisticness of it. And so just play and just enjoy the process, because that's what it's really about. And if you're happy with it, it doesn't matter if anybody else likes it. And so just get started and have fun. And so maybe I'll do one later. I don't really have a project right now to work on for to show you some of the detailed one, but maybe later when I have one of those projects, then I'll show that process a little bit in more detail in a separate video. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope if you like this video, you'll click like. And if you haven't subscribed, I hope you'll subscribe. And if you want to be notified of upcoming videos, click the little bell. And I think I have this right. If you see the parentheses next to the bell, then that means you have not clicked the bell. I hope I have that right. So anyway, if you want to be notified, click the bell. And I hope you'll come back next time to hear another piece of my mind. Thanks for watching.